This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm Trudy Hutchinson, and this afternoon we're going to be talking about capitalization in your writing, when, why, and other useful rules. And as you well know, capitalization is a challenge in this device-driven world, and you'll see from the little text message I sent below that is "see you for lunch at noon." There are no capital letters in that. There's barely any words in that. And we have to reform our everyday text messaging and our device language and transform that back into the written word, because the written word, as you have learned it and you are continuing to learn it, is the absolute best way to communicate with your reader in anything that you're writing. So my session goals for today are that you will learn to recognize a proper noun. You all know that a noun is a person, place, or thing. A proper noun is a special person, place, or thing. And as you progress with your writing, you will begin to identify nouns that may be proper nouns and require a capital letter. For a goal for this session is that you will learn to use the context of your writing to determine whether a capital letter is used. Sometimes in your writing, you're setting up a sort of specialness around a character or around a place or a thing that requires the use of a capital letter. And you will learn that as you begin to define context within your writing. And then finally, you will begin to appreciate how the rules of capitalization make your writing easier for your reader to understand and to access. There's an organization about it that is absolutely essential to clear writing. Now write your name. Just write it down. If you've got a piece of paper there, I'd like you to just write your name. And when you did that, I'm pretty sure you capitalized the letter of your first name, the first letter of your first name, and the first letter of your last name. And if you had a middle initial or a middle name, then you capitalized the first letter of that middle name. And the reason you did that was because within the context of your writing, you defined your name because of its importance in that writing, or the status of your name in that writing, or the uniqueness of your name in that writing. Your name in that writing is a proper noun, and it requires capital letters. You capitalize all proper nouns. And again, a proper noun is a specific person, place, or thing. Notice in what I've written here, person, Moses Cleveland. The city of Cleveland is named for a man named Moses Cleveland. That's his first and last name. Both his first and last name have capital letters. There's a place called Cleveland, Ohio. It isn't just any old place, it's this place. And we define it by its special city name, Cleveland, and its special state name, Ohio. A thing, the Cleveland Browns. That's our sports team, that's our football team, and we define it in the context of the sentence with capital letters. It's its total name, Cleveland Browns. Come on. In the same way, you capitalize words that are derived from proper nouns. Several decades ago, a president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, was president. And he had a lot of policies that were a legacy of his. Those policies are still talked about today. Among those policies had to do with economic policies. They took his name and they superimposed it on the word economics, and they called these policies Reaganomics. They made up a new word to go with that. And because that new word was derived from the proper name, Ronald Reagan, they began to write the word Reaganomics with a capital letter. Same thing with a place, something that is derived from a place. The place is the continent of Africa. Things that are of the continent of Africa, art, geography, music, would be described as African art, African music. It would be, that word would start with a capital letter. And then a thing. The Bible is a book. The title of that book is The Bible. And whenever in our writing we are referring to things of the Bible, stories from the Bible, characters from the Bible, we refer to them as biblical characters, and that requires a capital letter. Proper nouns, again, are so specific that they don't need modifiers. And this gets into what I was talking about within the context of your sentence. If you're writing a note and you're telling me something about how you're not feeling well and you're going to go to the doctor, and you write to me, I will go call the doctor who was recommended by my sister. That word doctor is in lowercase because it's not attached to a name. It's some doctor that my sister recommended, but it's some unidentified doctor. And that doctor, D-O-C-T-O-R, in that sentence is with a lowercase d. Right below that, though, we see that we're talking about a specific doctor. In this case, I'm going to write you a note and I'm going to say, I will call Dr. Brown. That is a real doctor. She or he is a real doctor with an address, and I know where I'm going. I know this doctor, and I call that doctor by her name, Dr. Brown. Same thing with State University. I say in my note, I want to attend a state university. And by that, I mean I want to go to a public university in some state somewhere. However, if I write, I want to attend Cleveland State University, well, then I know exactly where that is. That's a state university in the city of Cleveland. It's at East 22nd and Euclid, and many of us have already been there, and we have our eye on that university. That's where we want to go. And we put capital letters in all the words, Cleveland State University. So clues come from the context of your writing. And in that writing context, again, I want to reinforce that requires a capital letter, and your writing is going to help you make that decision. Now, when a person's job title is used as a form of direct address, or when it immediately precedes that person's name, that's job title will be capitalized. Now, let's just say you and I are sitting together and Mayor Jackson is in the other room, and you say to me, because you don't want to disrupt the other conversation in the room, you write me a note and you say, please take this document to Mayor Jackson. Well, Mayor Jackson has a name, it's Frank Jackson, and he goes by Mayor Jackson. And since the title Mayor is connected to his name, we use Mayor as a capital letter connected to his name, Jackson. But, and in the same way, if I were to be talking now to the mayor and I'm passing him a note because he's in a public place and I don't want to talk to him, I just want to pass him a note, I'm going to write down, would you like me to bring the document, Mayor? Because I am addressing him directly and I am using his title in the place of his name. And so I am using Mayor with a capital letter because I mean Mayor Jackson and he's right there. However, if we're talking about just any mayor, we're talking about the organization of the city of Cleveland, and we are explaining to someone how the city is set up. And so when we're writing the description of how the layers of government work in the city of Cleveland, we will say the highest elected official in the city of Cleveland is called the mayor. We're not talking now about Mayor Jackson. We might be talking about Mayor Tom Johnson. We might be talking about Mayor Voinovich, Mayor White. There are lots of mayors. And we might have been talking about any one of them because we're just talking about the office of mayor. We're not talking about any specific person. Same thing with a family relationship. In your writing, maybe you'll be writing conversation. Maybe you're writing some fiction. And in the fiction you're writing, you are using grandma in place of the full name of this grandma in your story. Your character says in the story, "Hi, Grandma." Your character is addressing the grandma in the story. And that's a form of direct address. We're sort of using grandma in the place of the real name of that person who's the grandma, and we capitalize grandma. In the very same way, if we're in the office someday and there are some cookies in the break room, and I would like for people to share those cookies, I might pass around a bulletin to my coworkers, and I would say, "Would you like a cookie that my grandma Jones baked?" Here again, that's when the family relationship, grandmother, grandma, is attached to the name of the grandma, Grandma Jones. Both words require a capital letter. But if we're just talking about how those cookies tasted, the cookies in the break room, we all had some, and we're just talking about how great they are, and we don't know who made them. In that case, we'll be saying in our note, "These yummy cookies taste like they were baked by somebody's grandma," but we don't really know that for sure. And even if they were, we don't know whose grandma it was. We just know they were really good and they tasted like something that somebody's grandmother would have baked. Similarly to both the mayor example and the one we just described with grandma, if we are using the relationship in the family as a form of direct address, and once again, I am having this written conversation with my uncle, and I want to know about that beautiful car I saw in the driveway, I will write him this note, and I will say, "Did you buy a new car, Uncle?" It's a form of direct address. And the uncle knows, he's right there. He's getting the note. He knows who I'm talking about. I'm talking to him. And I don't even need to use his name because he's my uncle and I address him as uncle. But if I am telling a third person that my uncle bought a new car, that'll be in lowercase because it's just my uncle to a third person, and my uncle is not probably around. If I tell that third person, though, that my Uncle Fred bought a new car, uncle gets capitalized because it's attached to Fred, who's my uncle. Now, in pronouns, often, most pronouns are not going to get capitalized. But the pronoun I, because I am writing about myself, I could very well be referring to myself as Trudy. I could say, in the first sentence, I could say, "Lena and Trudy walked to the park." If I was speaking myself, that would sound awkward because we don't usually refer to ourselves by our first names. But I would be talking about myself. That'd be a form of direct address. So I, the pronoun, is always capitalized, whether it's at the beginning of the sentence or whether it's in the middle of the sentence. Same thing with another. I would say, "I am serious. I'm writing you some kind of apology for a conflict we had," and I will write, "I am serious. You and I agree on many things." That I is referring to myself, and it's at the beginning of the sentence, it's a capital, and in the middle of the sentence, it's capitalized. But other pronouns are going to be in lowercase. Lena knows that he always wants to go for ice cream. He, even if we know we're talking about someone and we know what that person's name is, in this case, the pronoun is still going to be in lowercase. Only I gets a capital letter. You capitalize days. Sunday is the first day of the week. It's always the first day of the week, and it's always Sunday, and it gets a capital letter. November is the 11th month of the year. It's always the 11th month of the year, and it gets a capital letter. Labor Day is a holiday that we always enjoy in September. Both words in Labor Day get capital letters. But for some reason, you do not capitalize seasons. Summer, fall, winter, spring are all lowercase, and I don't know why, but it's true.
Maybe because they're not specific. So,
But they are, aren't they?
well, I guess, yeah, it's kind of strange. Maybe because it contains so many days and not just one particular.
I don't know. I actually thought about it. I thought I could figure this out, but I couldn't. It makes sense.
One of the many strange rules of grammar.
That's right. In the English language, we learn to love it. You capitalize the directions when they're used to identify specific locations. I could say, I love the South. And when I say that, I mean I love Southern cooking. I love Southern music. I love the slow way people talk in the South. I love the location below the Mason-Dixon line. I could say that. And that would be capitalized because it's a specific place. Even though it's a collection of states, it's still a specific place. And when I refer to it, my reader knows I'm talking about Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, those places down south that are distinguished because they are the South. But if I'm writing directions to you and I'm trying to tell you how to get to my house, and I tell you, or I write to you, drive south on Highway 2 and then turn east, I'm going to use lowercase because they're just generic directions. They could be used anywhere, and they just tell you to turn left or right when you're going this direction. And they're not specific enough to get capital letters. You capitalize all the important words in the title of your book, article, or presentation. All quiet on the Western Front. You can see that all and quiet and Western and front are all capital letters. On and the are kind of little letters, and they get just lowercase. Sometimes when you're writing a presentation, and so you're thinking the title yourself, sometimes it's kind of hard to decide what's important and what's not, but it's usually the little words. That's a sort of a rule, or sort of a guide, not a rule. So other sort of rules with capitalization, I think, to capitalize the first word of every sentence. You always capitalize the first letter of any interjection. So if you're yelling, yikes, you're going to have a capital Y there. You always capitalize initials, CMHARTAIRS. Those initials are always going to be in uppercase. They're going to be capital letters. And then you capitalize some abbreviations. But here again is where we get to that summer, fall, winter, spring thing is Y. States, street, the W in West 75th Street are capital. But foot and inches and minute and quart and gallon, those are little. Those are little letters. Those are lowercase letters. And again, I can't explain that. And it's something you just kind of have to learn. You will learn that, but there's no real guide for you on that. So as I said earlier, I want to make really important that proper capitalization clarifies your writing. Look at the sentence below. We learned lots of famous people like LeBron James, about lots of famous people like LeBron James and his mother. Now there's some mistakes in that sentence. Lots. I capitalized that. There's a biblical, capital B, character named Lot. When you look at that for a moment, I think, are we talking about a person named Lot? I'm confused if that is capitalized and it's not supposed to be. Famous people, you would think, might be capitalized because we are talking about special people, but the word famous and the word people isn't a special person. It's just a word that describes a special person, like LeBron James. Those two letters should not be capitalized. LeBron James, yes, it's capitalized. And because LeBron James was a personality in our community for so long, we got to know a little bit about his mother. But in this sentence, she doesn't get a capital letter. She's just LeBron James's mother in this sentence, and she is lowercase like this. We learned about a lot of famous people, including LeBron James and his mother. That sentence is much more easily understood if it's got capital letters in the right place. Likewise, if I write, the title of my talk is What to Do When You Run Out of Words. You look at the way I put my title in quotation marks so you know what my talk is. But when your eye falls on this, it sort of looks like the title of my talk is blah, 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 blah. It just, nothing stands out. It doesn't grab anybody's attention. You put uppercase letters on the important words in order to grab people's attention so that they want to go to your talk. What to do when you run out of words? Well, I'm going to that talk. That looks really interesting. And if we were to write the sentence, Ohio is bordered by the following 5 states, and we put those initials, not those initials, those abbreviations in small lowercase letters. 2 of those abbreviations are actual words. In is in and pa is pa. That would be very confusing. It would be very hard to figure out what states border Ohio if we didn't capitalize them like that. Much easier. So that is my message. When you use capital letters correctly, your message is more easily understood. People get tired reading and they need things to wake them up. So that makes it easier to read. When you put a period at the end of the sentence and capitalize the first letter of the next sentence, the I follows that prose, follows that written conversation, or follows that written description much more easily, and you don't get so tired. And more than that, it makes your message more credible. A message that is written properly, that is pays attention to what the reader is understanding from your written work, is much more believable. It's more credible. It has more authority than if some of those capital words are not capitalized that should be, or something is wrong with the way you have presented your copy. So that's the end of this presentation, and if there are any questions, you can write them in chat or not.
That's
right.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So what would I do? I would normally just, push out record.
Yes, we'll stop recording.
Stop recording.
This conference will now be recorded.